fellow water managers and SWMS users. I'm Russell Errett. I'm with the Water Management Systems Division out of the Hydrologic Engineering Center. My presentation today is going to be on the SWMS implementation, and we're going to use St. Louis District as an example. So for this presentation, it'll be broken into several parts. So the overview for the entire presentation, we'll go through the St. Louis District, give you kind of an overview and an orientation, familiarize you with the district as it stands right now, and then review the SWMS implementation and how it was implemented within the St. Louis District. Key note here is that this is just an example and not this is how it needs to be implemented for your district. So this is supposed to be how to gather some ideas to implement SWMS within your district. So feel free to steal these ideas, modify these ideas, use them to build off of for your district. And then after we go through the SWMS implementation, we'll start talking about the applications of SWMS within St. Louis District, how it's been used once it's been implemented. So we'll give you some real life examples that have been used, and then really how we've evaluated SWMS compared to the legacy methods that have existed in St. Louis. So St. Louis is in the heart of the country. It's in the Mississippi Valley. So upstream we have the Rock Island and St. Paul districts. So the upper Mississippi drains into the upper district or upstream from St. Louis. And then to the west we have Kansas City, Omaha, and the Northwest Division for the Missouri River Basin, which drains in just upstream of St. Louis. And then as we get farther to the southern part of the St. Louis District, we get into the Ohio River Division. So the Ohio River comes in at the lower end of our district, and that actually influences some backwater effects that happen on the lower end. So we're very in tune with the upper part of this upper greater Mississippi watershed as it affects the St. Louis District. And then once the water leaves St. Louis, it goes into the Memphis, Vicksburg, and New Orleans district. So there's a lot of close coordination with those lower three districts for the impacts that they have on the lower Mississippi. So I always like to think St. Louis is kind of like the heartbeat of the core or the glue that holds the rivers together. So it was kind of a funny joke to tell districts. As we move into St. Louis District itself, you can kind of see in the middle of the district we have the Mississippi River that bisects through the district itself. And so over here on the east we have the state of Illinois, and over here on the west we have the state of Missouri. We have 5 flood control reservoirs, 2 of them in Missouri, 3 in Illinois. So in northeastern Missouri we have Mark Twain Lake, which is on the Salt River, which drains into the Mississippi just upstream of Louisiana, Missouri. It's a hydropower peaking plant. So we'll be using this watershed as the example of how SWMS has been implemented in St. Louis. In addition, there's in southeastern Missouri, there's Wapapella Lake. Once the releases go out of Wapapella Lake, they actually go into the Memphis district on the St. Francis River. And then in Illinois, in the Kaskaskia River watershed, there are 2 flood control reservoirs that work as a tandem system. So we have Lake Shelbyville in the upstream reservoir, and then downstream we have Carlisle Lake. And then in southern Illinois, there is Wren Lake. This is kind of a joke. That's our favorite reservoir to regulate within the district because it's an unregulated spillway. Its primary purpose is water supply. In addition to the flood control reservoirs, we have 5 locks and dams in the St. Louis District. There is Lock and Dam 24 at Clarksville, Lock and Dam 25 at Winfield, and then Mel Price Lock and Dam in Alton. This is actually the last gated structure on the Mississippi River. So from Mel Price Lock and Dam all the way to New Orleans and the Gulf, it's all open river. So there's no more regulated dams on the river itself that would have any influence on the control of the river. So it's kind of an open river, free-flowing system from here south. But just south of Mel Price, there's locks 27, which are in the canal, the Chain of Rocks Canal. And then on the main stem Mississippi, there is a low water dam. It's kind of just a rip-rap dam, and its primary purpose is to make sure that there's enough depth at the tailwater of Mel Price Lock and Dam during extreme low flows. And as we get farther in our district, the very southern tip of the Kaskaskia River, just 7/10 of a mile from the Mississippi River, there's a lock and dam on the Kaskaskia, and you can kind of see in this picture, you can see the foreground of the Mississippi here. And so the Kaskaskia has 3 projects, so it's kind of an interesting watershed to regulate within SWMS. So as a water manager, the first things that a lot of us do is just kind of view the conditions. And so the first thing a lot of us will do, especially during flood operations, is view precipitation. What has occurred over the last 24 hours and what's going to occur in the future, basically, right? So some of the familiarity products that you would probably see, this is from the AHAPS page, which has been modernized. This is kind of an old screen grab, but still very familiar to see like the national picture where rainfall has occurred over the last 7 days in this picture. This is the 1 day precipitation. So this actually is from an event in 2015. This is the winter 2015-2016 event, like the Christmas New Year's event. So you can see the heavy band of rainfall that came through. St. Louis would be here, and then you can kind of see the band of heavy rainfall. This is kind of a record-setting event on the St. Louis district. So this is not an unfamiliar product for water managers to have looked at. Additionally, the 7-day QPF was looked at, and so those that may not be familiar with what a QPF is, this is a quantitative precipitation forecast. This is going to tell us how much rain to expect, and this is a 7-day accumulation total. So we might look at this in a more refined manner, like 6-hour increments or 1-day totals, but a lot of water managers and decision makers try to look at the week's total. It gives them a real big coarse look at what to expect. So in this scenario here, this is from 2019, you can see a lot of heavy rainfall forecasted for Kansas City area. The reason that this is kind of grabbed is because when Kansas City gets rain, it comes down the Missouri River, and St. Louis gets the effects. So you can imagine from St. Louis, this entire area, when we're looking at things, really impact what's going to happen on the main Mississippi. So this is always significant for us, even though it's not in our district. Additionally, the Mississippi River, the greater Mississippi River drainage basin, especially the lower Mississippi, like Memphis, Vicksburg, New Orleans, really likes to key in on this product. And this is a 16-day QPF product. So this is an accumulation of what's forecasted over the next 16 days. Now, it might seem absurd for a lot of water managers to think about that, but if you really think about the lower Mississippi, this rainfall may not be predicted very accurately on placement. It might hit the Arkansas River Basin, it might hit the Missouri Basin, it might hit the upper Mississippi. It could even go into the Ohio River Basin. It could go to any one of these, but it's going to make it down to New Orleans. And so that they're very keen on. They don't really care the placement necessarily and the accuracy of where it goes. They just know that that amount of water is going to make its way down here. So this is very, very informative for them. With that said, to really see the full effect of what this is going to do in the river system, we would probably need to run this through our SWMS models. And so we will talk about this later on, how this product gets applied to the SWMS models in St. Louis so that we can hand that off to Memphis so they can see the full effect of what this might do. So those were products that are generated by the National Weather Service and the River Forecast Centers for us. They are kind of canned products that sit spatially. So I like to take those products and put them in map view so I can see them spatially within something that makes more sense to me in a regional sense, especially in the St. Louis area. So in map view, you can put shape files in here. So we have put in shape files for each of the watersheds. You can imagine if you wanted to break this down even farther for like each of the subbasins for like an HMS model, that'll give you more refined information. I like to break it down by watershed because I like to see where the rain's going to fall in each of the watersheds, and I can communicate this to people that aren't water managers, like the upper leadership, like the commanders, the emergency operations, planners, anybody that may not be a water resource engineer specifically can start to understand some of this information and makes it more digestible for them. So this may not be as detailed enough for what I need as a water manager, but it's perfect for me to be able to convey the message on where the issues are and where the focus of our water management activities are going to be. So for example, this really, if you start seeing the summary of like the sub-basin average or the watershed averages, the Salt River is going to get about 1 inch of rain. But if we get down here towards the St. Francis or Merrimack or Castor, we're starting to get between 7 to close to 10 inches of rainfall. This will be the epicenter of the things that we will be talking about if we're trying to brief upper leadership. And so they'll have a better understanding of which projects they should be looking at. The other thing that this does is when I come into the office to try to assess which projects I should do first, in St. Louis, we have 5 flood control reservoirs and 5 block dams. On a typical day, one water manager will do all of those. They'll manage those in the morning, and they'll also manage the river sometime late morning into the early afternoon, depending upon how kind of conditions are going on. So one person could handle all these projects themselves. And in that scenario, this gives a triage to those individuals. Which projects should I start on? So if this was the forecasted rainfall for my projects that I was going to come into for the day, I'm probably starting on the St. Francis River at Wapapello, making sure I'm setting those releases first, probably working my way through the southern Illinois over here, the Big Muddy, trying to get a forecast for that project, and then I'm probably going to the Kaskaskia, and I'm probably saving the Salt River for last because it's the lowest on my priority. So So I kind of use this as a triage to help me focus on which project I need to go to first. Also, you know, if we get into big flood situations, we start putting more hands on deck, if you will. So there's more water managers on staff, there's more individuals in the office, so we might split these projects up. And so we might split these projects up based upon experience level. So we might put the more experienced water managers on St. Francis, on Big Muddy, on the Cascade. We might put the least experienced water managers on the Salt River because there's not as much going on. That really gives them an opportunity to get trained up, but there's not as much going on there. So they can kind of be a part of the experience. And then obviously the Mississippi is going to be impacted by all of these. And so the other thing we can do is we can make briefing tools from this too. Like we talked about just briefing off that, but I can put these side by side within NetView. So I'm looking at the same thing. So this is the last 7 days of rainfall for an event, right? And then over here to the right is the next 7 days of forecasted rainfall. So we can do a side by side comparison. We say, hey, there's a lot that has been happening down here in the St. Francis, Castor River watersheds down here. This is kind of the epicenter of what's going on. But you know what's coming at us is we might need to start looking at the Merrimack, the Quiver, and the Salt River basins, and so those might be more of concerns coming up, and so that gives a better idea of where we need to focus our briefings and all of those things. So this has all been done before we really even open any SWMS models, any of the cabbies. This is just done in NetView, so this is kind of the assessment of things before we even open a model. This is the beautiful part about SWMS. You can start intertwining just the digital data itself and really start doing an assessment. If you have any questions about our software, need help, or are looking for additional training, check out these links here, and also there's some more descriptions below. Thanks for your time.